Doctor was scavenging through the TARDIS corridors. He was looking for a deck chair and eventually found one. He looked at a tag on it and it said Brighton Beach Deck Chair Rentals or something like that. He then remembered when he visited Brighton Beach with Romana and K9. He headed to the console where Louisa was waiting for him. She was wearing a red-white striped bikini top, white shorts and a pair of white slip-on hush puppies. She asked the Doctor where they were going. The Doctor said they are going to the planet Florana and it's a place he hasn't been to in a long time. He tried going before with someone he traveled with called Sarah Jane Smith, but the TARDIS's power got drained on the planet Exxilon and faced on his old enemies. Louisa asked who were these old enemies of his and the Doctor didn't say, but they are a deadly race. The Doctor went on about what Florana has to offer. Floating seas, beaches of weaved gold and carpets of sweet perfumed flowers. Louisa was enthused by the prospects of the planet had to other and wondered if she'd get a good tan. The TARDIS made the dematerializing sound and landed. The Doctor took a deep breath as he got his deck chair and Louisa with her handbag. They opened the door and what they expected to see wasn't. The beach was covered in waste like a dumping ground. Barrels of toxic waste were planted around the area and when Louisa stepped out the TARDIS she landed face first into the sand. The Doctor followed out and realized the TARDIS had landed what gruesomely seemed to be a pile of corpses. The Doctor looked round and looked at the teal sky, at least that was intact. He wonders if they've ended in the planet's far future, and by the looks things seemly so. Various corporations have been dumping their waste on the planet and tourism has hit a dead end. The Doctor and Louisa decided to walk along the beach to see what else has happened to this tranquil planet. While walking down the beach, Louisa sees a scorpion crab creature scuttling in the nearby bushes and suddenly sets its sights on her. She panics and runs off down the beach. The Doctor sees it as well and flees, knowing those creatures carry a lethal venom in their tails. He catches up with Louisa, who tripped over something metal in the sand. Louisa was okay with no injuries and asked what on earth is it? The Doctor brushed the sand off with his hand and realized it was a hatch. He opened it and a ladder was revealed. He decided to go down. Louisa wasn't sure and the Doctor said if she stayed here she'll have to contend with more of those creatures. Louisa quickly agreed to join him and the two entered the hatch. Once down, the Doctor walked forward and saw a metal door. Next to it was a button and he curiosity pressed it. The metal door opened and the Doctor notices it was a lift or elevator as Louisa would call it. The two entered in and he pushed the button leading down to the ocean's surface. The lift made a bing sound and the doors opened. The Doctor carefully looked round the emptiness of the area, only the metal structure was groaning as it was beneath the ocean's surface and the greenish aqua lighting made it quite eerie. The Doctor and Louisa made it to another set of doors. A keypad was next to it, so a 4-digit code was needed. The Doctor took out the sonic screwdriver out. Louisa wasn't sure what was going to be behind those doors and the Doctor remarked that it's part of the excitement for adventure. He opened the doors and on the other side was a group of armed amphibious humanoids. These have built skeletal muscular bodies and 3 colors of skin representing their ranks. Red for drone, yellow for strategist and blue for leader. They are called the Xylus and they came from the planet Halia. The Xylo commander orders the others to hold down their weapons and greet the Doctor and Louisa. The Doctor questioned the underwater base and the Xylo commander instructs the two to follow them down to the main room where the Doctor question can be answered. The Doctor and Louisa followed the Xylus into a large room filled with monitors and windows looking out at the ocean's surface. The Xylo commander gave a call to the administrators who run the underwater base and 2 other amphibian humanoids appear. They had silvery skin, crested heads and fins along their spines. The Doctor recognized them. They were Iridians and approaches them with a welcoming smile. The 2 Iridians didn't recognize him, but the Doctor explained that he is a Time Lord and that he last saw them on their home planet Iridius in the first incarnation. The 2 Iridians said that they are the last of their kind. Their home planet was destroyed by the Daleks and the base under the sea is for refugees who haven't got a world to live on. The Doctor's pleasant mood changed to a remorse tone. He felt sorry for them and the ones they lost. Later on, the Iridians were preparing a meal for the remaining refugees. The Doctor and Louisa sat at the long black metal table and watched as the remaining refugees entered. The Xylo troop, a sea devil called Sever and a trio of mentors called Set, Say and Jex. The Iridians presented the meal involving steamed small green serpentine creatures, concrete gray mush which apparently has proteins in it and a tan brown spongy blancmange thing. The doctor tucked into the food while Louisa was struggling to stomach a little bit down and started to spit out into a napkin. One of the Iridians banged a small gong and presented a speech on how faithful the refugees have been in recent years. A small round of applause lifted the atmosphere. The doctor was sat next to Sever and asked how a sea devil ended up at Florana. Sever explained the Earth had been corrupted by various nuclear wars and space travel was the only solution to escape. But the war soon followed to the solar system, destroying the remaining planets, and somehow he ended up in another galaxy. He wasn't sure how he got here. The doctor remained silent and thought about how the human race can be so destructive even to an extent to cause genocide. Louisa looked on at the mentors. She felt a bit freaked out by them, mainly because of their sinister slimy laughs and those tails. She thinks they are carrying some sort of poison in them. The doctor and Louisa later headed through one of the corridors when a couple of blast sounds was heard. The doctor raced back to the dining area and saw the two Iridians shot dead on the floor. The laser blast had killed them instantly and the doctor was saddened by this. Sever, the mentors and the Xylo troop entered in asking questions about this. The doctor explained that the two Iridians were killed by someone in this base and that the one should turn in. The Xylo commander confronted the doctor and started to accuse him for killing the Iridians. The doctor retorted this nonsense and started pointing rapidly at the other amphibian races. The Xylo commander knocked the doctor and instructed the troop to imprison them. Louisa tried to explain that they didn't do it, but the Xylo commander said the two had randomly appeared at the base and the troop suspect something suspicious about them. The troop take the doctor and Louisa to keep them holed in. Sever and the mentors later went to an observation lounge area discussing what the future of the refugee base. Sep discussed profit ideas involving the new refugees paying a high fee for hospitality. Say mentioned selling the base for resources ideal for other planets for protected and yet again for a high price. Jex just sat back agreeing to both while eating a bowl of marshmallows. All three mentioned that their late Lord Sil would be proud of them. Sever contemplated about the murder situation and decided to go for a walk round the base. The mentors left him to it and slimly chuckled to themselves. When Sever returned later to the observation area, he found the mentors killed. Blast wounds riddled their bodies and their blood covering some of the walls. The Xylo commander came in and inspected the deaths. Sever started hearing a radio transmission noise coming from the Xylo commander's waist. He stared at it and once the Xylo commander knew what he was doing, he slapped Sever across the face backhanded. The Xylo commander berated Sever for intruding on their investigation and surveying their equipment. Sever left the observation area and thought maybe the doctor should know what's going on. The doctor and Louisa sat in their cell still pondering who was killing off the other amphibian races. Louisa asked the doctor who are the Daleks and the doctor tried to change the subject but she rejected his distractions. She wanted to know. The doctor explains that their alien race heralded from the planet Skero, created by a scientist called Davros, and has encountered them various times on his travels. The doctor's hands started to shake and Louisa held them. He said enough about those unstoppable warmongers. Louisa started a different conversation to ease the doctor down and told him about her life before she met him. She was born in Iowa. At school she was a shy kid and didn't say much. When she was a high school, one of her part-time jobs was at a health spa where she was spotted by a talent agent and ended up appearing in a toothpaste commercial. A bit hungry for stardom, she traveled to Los Angeles to seek acting jobs. No luck there and even tried entering a dance troupe, but all other dancers were too cliquey. She then read an advert in a local paper saying about a film production were now casting for a major motion picture. She auditioned and got a part in this film called 3 into 1. What she didn't know was that it was a pornographic movie, but she managed to get through the rapid film shoot, and that was right before she met the doctor. He gave a slightly stunned look at her and replied that film would have been bootlegged for decades. Sever came to the cell door and unlocks it. The doctor asked why he's doing this and Sever explained that he found some new evidence regarding transmissions from an unknown source. The Xylo commander was standing in one of the base's corridor communicating with something on the other end and said that the refugee base on Florana is becoming more empty. The only ones left alive being the Sea Devil Sever and two recently arrived visitors, one of them who knew the Iridians quite well. The doctor, Louisa and Sever headed to a small surveillance room that was sealed that only the Iridians accessed. The doctor meddled with some of the controls and managed to intercept the signal from the Xylo communication system. The doctor listened in and suddenly heard a familiar voice from his past. It sounded electronic and modulated. It was the voice of a Dalek, and the doctor raced out of the surveillance room. Louisa and Sever followed quickly after the doctor. The Xylo commander and his troop were waiting in the dining area. The commander pressed a few buttons on his wrist and the troop were teleported somewhere away from Florana. He also pressed a button and a timer came up. The doctor barged his way into the dining area and angrily confronted the commander. The Xylo were in league with the Daleks and were planning to exterminate refugees bases across the galaxies. They see refugees as vermin, clogging up the worlds with populated survivors and entities that are worth killing for. The doctor said that the Daleks cannot be trusted and that they don't work with allies even if it's to kill other races. The Xylo commander snubbed this and proceeded to continue with his plan. Louisa and Sever came in and the doctor quickly approached Louisa. The doctor put his hand in the back of Louisa's shorts and retrieved the sonic screwdriver. He points at the Xylo commander and fries the wrist device's circuits. The Xylo commander went ballistic and brought out his laser pistol. Sever managed to shoot it out of the commander's hand with his circular device but only to burn its power, rendering it useless. The Xylo commander charged at Sever and forcefully removed him out of the dining area. Sever and the Xylo commander suddenly entered bare combat, punching, grabbing and pinning each other against walls. The Xylo commander winded Sever and knocks him down to the floor. The Xylo commander gouges Sever's eyes out and brutally breaks his neck, killing him instantly. The commander got up and tried to get the teleport band to work but to no prevail due to the doctor's disablement of it. He managed to get something to work by bashing his wrist against the wall and a beeping sound started to buzz. The doctor and Louisa came into the corridor and witnessed the dead body of Sever. The doctor silently held his grief and used the sonic screwdriver on the commander. The Xylo commander started to get teleported but it started to get screwy and then the top half of the body disappeared, leaving just the legs to fall onto the floor. Before the doctor could say what he did, Louisa started hearing muffled booming sounds and then the base started to exceed with seawater. The Xylos had planted detonators around the base to destroy the refugees and were planning to teleport out of there somewhere that the Daleks were waiting. The doctor told Louisa to run and find a way out. The doctor and Louisa find a nearby airlock and entered it. The base was exploding and flooding rapidly. The doctor activated the airlock door and Louisa hugged him tightly for safety. The airlock door opened and the doctor and Louisa shot out of the base like a contorted torpedo. They were below the ocean's surface. Louisa starting panicking because of lack of oxygen she holding inside her, and the doctor quickly blowed some air into her mouth. The two then started floating to the surface. Louisa kept hold on to the doctor and he looked up laughing like he scored a victory. The two bobbed up to the surface. The doctor gleefully raised his arms and said about the floating seas. Louisa made to the sand and laid on her back to catch her breath. The doctor came over and sat next to her. Louisa pointed her finger at him and said she isn't doing that again. The doctor looked around at the rubbish the corporations have dumped and sighed. The far future can be depressing and fearful. Louisa asked if the Daleks will obliterate Florana when the Xylos had sent their location to them. The doctor wasn't sure. Maybe, or they might be distracted by something else worth taking over. The doctor helped her up and said they'll go back to the TARDIS. Louisa accepted this and put her arm around the doctor's waist while they walked along the beach.